give us a little bit of insight into what's going on with childhood cancer, specifically in these kids' lives. And we can all talk about it, we can all email about it, but when you are there and you're experiencing it, it's something that I think we need to hear.
All right, I don't have a very loud voice, so you guys will have to hang with me. So I'm a nurse practitioner at Children's Hospital. I've also worked at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children. I have a really, I could tell you one of 1,000 stories of how foundations impact these kids. And you gotta bear with me because it's kind of a sad story, but it's amazing. So the Donato Foundation, the Arms Wide Open, they have families who are during these diagnoses and treatment of childhood cancer, and it's completely uplifting for these families. So to give you a bit of background, I have a story about a little girl named Destiny. She was about 3 years old, and she was brought into us, and she was diagnosed with a Wilms tumor. So it's a malignant tumor of the kidney. She was brought to the ICU where I first met her, and I vividly remember the day. She'd become neutropenic, which means the inability to fight infection because the neutrophils in her white blood cells were low. So her mom was 20. She was single. She was getting her life together and in college and had her first decent paying job. The diagnosis of Wilms tumor and the chemo, the radiation, the surgery totally had uplifted her life, in addition to the fact that she traveled 2 hours away to get here. So Destiny frequented us in the ICU on many occasions. She would go from the oncology floor back to the ICU, back to the oncology floor as she got better, depending on how sick she was. And her jokes, her nuances, her preferences, we would sit long hours. We got to know her and her family so well. And we finally were even simple things, like we would convince her mom to go take a shower after she spent days of not wanting to leave her side when she had caught this cancer. And she was worried that that moment that she would leave, that news or a test result or the doctor would come by. And I could lament over the grueling life that this mom, as well as many other moms, lead when they're dealing with a child with cancer. 1 minute, Destiny's mom was planning her 3rd birthday party, going to college and working part-time. The next, she lived her life for almost 2 years in the hospital. So Destiny's mom would say things like, you know that comforter that such and such foundation brought you last night when I've been sleeping with a hospital sheet for over 2 weeks? She goes, I had the best sleep of my life. That hairdryer that was donated made me feel like I could get my life back together and face the doctors when they did rounds. That free meal voucher was exactly what I need because I can no longer have a job. That book that I received gave me reading to help me refocus my attention on something else because I didn't go to college anymore. That new drug that I'm part of in the anti-nausea drug study has helped Destiny eat for 3 days. That's something she hasn't done in a month. Each time I would see an organization or a foundation come to these parents' rescues, I was amazed. That small act of kindness, that small donation, that small act of giving went miles for these families. So Arms Wide Open and the Donato Foundation are their immense assistance to the families such as Destiny's. To conclude my story, about 18 months after we had Destiny's kind of her get better, her discharge from the hospital, her party home, I got a call that I needed to accept an admission and that I might want to meet this patient in the CT scan area. So I walked down to the CT scan room, and when I walked down, it was Destiny standing there with her mother in the scanner, holding her hand. Everyone was silent. I took one look at the screen and held the oncologist's hand. The fight was over. Destiny was filled with cancer. Destiny passed away 4 weeks later, and this is where foundations come in that you wouldn't necessarily think of. She passed away 4 weeks later, but think of it, her mom only knew the hospital for the past 2.5 years. So for her life, she had no idea where to pick up after this. Her pieces had fallen apart. She came in on Christmas Day, that following Christmas, because she didn't know anything different for the past year. Every holiday, every birthday, every single celebration was at the hospital. She spent it with us. Through foundations like Donato and Arms Wide Open, helping her through the grieving process is essential. And I don't want that to be forgotten. Destiny's mom was able to get back on track through foundations that helped her with the grieving process for a not-so-successful story. Without these incredible foundations, families such as these would not be able to survive this amazing journey. Thanks.
Thank you. 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 Okay.
So,